welcome everyone to today's discussion. My name is Lydia Tesema. I will be one of your hosts. Second host is right over there.
Romain.
Today, Romain and myself are hosting a conversation around ownership within the Black community. And this is a part of a 3-part project that we're doing for the Multicultural Arts of Victoria. Essentially, the project asked us to respond to inequity and disadvantage within the Black community in Australia using art, and we decided to use conversation, music, and visual art to do this. So, yeah, we have a bunch of lovely guests with us today. We've got Kambale. Hello. We've got Toyin. We've only got 2 mics, so we'll pass it around soon. We've got Sully, and obviously Romain's over here. Romain's about to explain to you his organisation. So he has an organisation that he founded called Ownership, and that's inspired today's conversation. So, Roms.
Yeah, it's not really an organisation, but a platform that I wanted to create. So, and the reason why I kind of thought it was a good idea to come with this platform is because growing up and coming to Australia as well, finishing my studies, I studied business and law and stuff, and then I worked in the bank for a couple of years, and then real estate. So having this experience, I've kind of saw a bit of a gap in our community, Black community, in terms of lack of ownership. Like we don't own a lot of stuff in Australia. Like in terms of businesses, even properties, for example. Mm-hmm. It's so hard to see. Like every time I come here around, see Vola, for example, it's quite inspiring to see. Like we're kind of stepping into that platform now. So for me, ownership is something that's very important. I'm really inspired to do this because I want to see change. And I want to see us young Black people owning businesses and properties and just to see us grow in the communities. Yeah. That's pretty much what the platform is there for.
And it helps to give context to our viewers that Romain has this passion or interest from a place of experience.
Personal
as well,
experience,
right?
Yeah.
Personal experience. You own. You have. Yeah. You own. I don't know if you
property
want
and a few businesses.
And a few businesses. Yeah. So. I think it's coming from not only a place of, just general concern and interest as an African Australian, but as someone who is in this space and sees the value of our community being in this space as well.
Correct. And which is the reason why we felt like it was important to have this conversation with people like you yourselves, because I know, Soli, you're into music, and Kambela, you're into fashion. Supposed to have Glory here as well, but it's not here today.
Yeah.
And Vola is into food. There's a bit of diversity here, so which I think was important to have this conversation today.
For sure. And also we wanted to mix it up in terms of age as well, or generation. So we have obviously he said
the papa of the house.
Yeah, so we're just hoping to get a diverse range of perspectives.
Correct.
Today.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's
I think we should get everybody to introduce themselves.
True.
And tell us a bit of yourself, what you do, and what's your kind of a vision you have for yourself and stuff like that. We'll start off with Soli.
Yeah, and also please tell us why you found value in coming today and being a part of this conversation.
Okay, hi, I'm Soli. I'm a singer-songwriter based in Melbourne. Why I saw value in this, I think it's not a conversation that's often had. And I think if I can contribute to this conversation in some capacity, I think I come from a very unique angle as an artist as well. You wouldn't typically perceive that as business ownership per se. But yeah, happy to be here.
But we found a lot of value, and actually Romain really vouch for Soli because obviously you can profit off your own brand as a person, so you can be a freelance artist in whatever it is, whatever skill or passion you have, and you can basically profit off your own brand. So Soli's going to be coming from that angle today. Yeah. Toyin.
Yeah, Toyin. Toyin Abbas. I don't know where to start, but I'll let you know. I'm an artist, but not your own type of. I used to play professional soccer. I came to play soccer in Australia about 23 years ago.
Wow.
And then I ventured into the community sphere where I work with the Yara City Council. I still mentor young people. I do that. Anything Africa, I'm just passionate about it. I don't know. I'll continue to say this. I'm an Australian. I'm an African. And I'm proud to be anything.
That's it.
For the betterment of Africa or people of color, I'm there. That's why I'm here today.
He is. And look, I only recently met Toyin about 4 weeks ago at the with my job at the Yara City Council, and he is extremely passionate about about young people and about seeing our younger generation thrive.
I'll say this before I'll pass the mic. I went to Nigeria I came back 2020 and I saw, I'll call it people that were lost. And Gucci, sorry brother, dressed this way. And I was thinking in my head, we're talking about a better Africa. And I was worried, my cousins, everybody, Nike, Gucci, and I thought, Tony, when you get back to Australia, you must show yourself, you must show your friends that you're from Africa. I came back 2020, honestly speaking, you've met me a few times. I have a lot of shirts, but I put up my normal pants, but I just want to be African.
Yeah, he's
honestly,
always
I just wanna
repping
share it.
African attire.
I'm so proud. I'm so proud. I'm so, thanks everybody, and thanks anyway. Over to you.
Right.
I'm doing
You can like squeeze
it's
in.
casual. It's casual. Yeah. Ash Bowler, the lovely bowler who's hosting us today, is here. Has joined our conversation.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome.
No. That's it's like no one believes me.
Because I'm so outgoing. I know. But I did like 10 minutes.
Okay. Ash is gonna breathe.
No, it's okay. Yep.
I love this.
Yes. Anyway, I'm very hot as well. In terms of, I mean,
Yes, you are.
in terms of what you said, no. My name is Kambale. I want to say that I'm glad to be part of this panel right now, and the fact that we all share the same vision into almost like a diverse Africa's, so this is very much of like a united of Africa, because there's different backgrounds of African, and I think sometimes people forget that when they say, are you African? And it's yes, but it's like I'm also from Congo, so which is really, really good, and to see that everyone also shared the same idea and aspiration to be able to create a better tomorrow for us. That's the reason why I'm really, really here, so we can really thrive that and push it forward. But
Love that. Thank you. We were asking them to introduce themselves and why they're like who you are, what you do, and why you're happy to be here, why you see value in being a part of this conversation.
Bless you for that. Hi, everybody. Really, I'm not used to the camera, so this is creeping me out a little bit. What I do, I hide behind the kitchen, the orange container, so people don't see me. What do I do? And I don't do everything. Yes. Okay. So I do. I was thinking about this question this morning, which is crazy, right? Because people have been asking me lately, how do you fill your cup? What makes you happy? Why do you do what you do? And I feel like fashion is how I express my playful and sexy side. And food is how I share my love and my family and my upbringing. So that's why I do what I do. Does that help?
Nice and simple.
And
Yeah,
Ash, why did
clear.
you let us? Why did you kindly let us come here on your turf?
Yeah, I know. We know
do this. Yeah, but
I am honestly all about supporting African
correct.
businesses. Not just African, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
I need to see more African
Definitely.
shine, glow.
Definitely.
I want to see more African things out there because there's just so much people are just so scared to do.
Yeah.
And I had to take a big risk on myself.
Yep.
And I want other people to take a risk on themselves as well.
Correct.
that's it.
Everybody is welcome. You don't have to be African,
Yeah.
but I'm up to challenging more Africans to step up.
That's
I
nice.
love that she touched on fear, and that's what we're gonna address.
One of the questions we're going to ask is about fear. You're like, yeah. So thanks for getting us into there.
Okay, well now that we're all here, right?
Yeah.
So let's get
Let's
into
dive
the
into it.
conversation.
Yeah.
Ash, in case you have to cook some food for someone real quick, in case you have, in case you have to bless someone with your food, I'll ask you the first question. All right, here. Actually, you kind of answered why you got into food and fashion, because that was the first question. You got into food as a way of sharing your love, your upbringing, your family, and then you got into fashion to express yourself, your bubbly personality, and your sexy side. As she said. Well, I'll ask you the second question. Why did you feel the need to have your own business when you could have exercised your passions as an employee?
That's a very good question. Okay. I've always believed in challenging myself. I grew up watching a lot of television, not seeing people like me doing what I wanted to do. My goal was always to show how I was raised. And there wasn't anything when I moved to Australia that was doing that. So it took me a long time to believe that I can do it. But I just made the decision and I was like, you know what, enough is enough. I just want to put jollof on the plate. I want to put plantains on the plate. Like, I want to put fish on the plate, like a whole fish with the bone. You don't really get to see much of that on, like, you know, African street food. You can't drive down Africa without having this crazy smells. And I just wanted to be in Melbourne, but not feeling like you're in Melbourne. That was my goal. And I know nothing could stop me once I was like, enough. I have to do this. I cannot not do this. And that was it.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so it's interesting because it's almost as if you weren't motivated mainly by the desire to have your own business, like to own something. It was more about the cultural and like your well-being side. Like you wanted to like fulfill a certain part of you in a sense. But it doesn't. I didn't at any point. I didn't hear mentioning of I wanted to own a business because it would empower me. Were these just things that happened as a result of you? What are the advantages of now having your own business, even though you didn't go for it for reasons? That's a disadvantage.
I don't know. I've always that's how probably why I did fashion. I'm just not used to following the crowd. I'm not a follow the crowd person. I love to always just be like different. I know it sounds crazy, but I just don't see myself as normal. And my life is to leave legacy. If I die tomorrow, I need to know that I left something behind for my family. So that's just how I've always thought about it. It's just, how can I be different? I think I'm a leader. I like to lead. And sometimes it's a bit challenging. I'm learning. I don't like to be told what to do. But I've also learned that someone telling you what to do, if they've got true love for you, they're telling you that to inspire you, to get to have something better for you. And sometimes our parents always say, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's not because they don't love you, it's because they were raised differently. So I just had to find that and just be like, I've got bigger things to do than myself. I'm not doing this for me anymore.
It's just beyond yourself.
Exactly, it's not for me. Yeah, I've never just thought, I'm going to open a business for me. Like, it's called Vola Foods because Vola is my last name. It's my family name. It's family for me. Anybody that walks through here, I try and treat everybody like family.
That's nice.
Okay, ask somebody else.
No.
I was gonna give you a break.
Were you gonna give her a break? Because I wasn't gonna give her a break. I was gonna ask another follow-up question. All right, we'll get
I was gonna ask Soli a question.
Go for it.
Because I know, like, music industry, not just being black, just in general, it's hard to make it up there. But you know, you made it. Like, you're getting there. And also I know that being black is actually a little bit harder as well. So what's your journey? How's your journey been like? What's been challenging in your journey so far? Like, what's been the highlights of your journey? You know, if you can highlight some highlights and some challenges that you have faced in the past.
Yeah, I think that's a big question. Challenges, I can definitely start there. I think the biggest thing that I feel like, because I would say I'm more so in like the R&B space. If I had to box myself into one genre, it's that. And I think the biggest thing for Australians that are sitting in that space at the moment is you feel like there's a lack of receptive ears. Do you know what I mean? So like, Australia isn't known for R&B, hip hop, soul. And even though the talent's there, it doesn't feel as nurtured, and it doesn't feel like on a bigger scale, like labels are willing to nurture that sound. So I think that's the hardest thing. It's like, it's super discouraging when you can't see yourself on a big scale. There's no kind of representation in that sense. So that's probably, I guess, kind of like a deterrent almost. It's kind of like, okay, no one's really made it in the R&B space here. I mean, yes, there's incredible acts, but like for the most part, in general. And then you kind of see what's happening over in the UK and America, and like seeing that can kind of be discouraging in a sense. But in saying that, the scene is very much growing, and I do love it for that. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge for sure. There's so many challenges. I think I can speak to like insecurity, and that's a whole conversation in itself. But yeah.
Nice. Okay, Kambale. We'll come over to you. How did you end up as an entrepreneur in the fashion industry? how did you end up as the suit man, the suit connoisseur?
Was it a passion that you had, or was it passed on from you? Sometimes we have parents that show us some stuff we want to put on board. Was it like a passion, or was it something that you discovered at a certain age, or
Can I say something? I'd be very shocked to hear that it's not a passion. I'd be very shocked to hear that it's not.
Yeah. I mean, with me and my tailoring, to be honest, like my mom, she's an entrepreneur. So that's why I think I have this mindset of like this business mindset that I think I sort of touched on earlier as well. Like it's like I can't really get away from it because everywhere that I really go, everything I really see, it's like an opportunity for me. So I look at it as like potentially in the future, something like when I'm doing like like a showcasing, Vola will be catering and her team to the people at this show, so that's the only way that I see it, so I see solely doing a shutdown show at the event, so do you know what I mean, so and that's just how it works, so potentially with your artwork can be like in the background, so because that's just how for me the whole team goes, so and because from the very start, that's how I've been raised, so and which goes back to my passion. My passion is that I remember when I was like 6, 7 years old, or even 5, in my mom's sewing machine, because she had like a warehouse of sewing machines and building room on the other side with all her architecture and all this other stuff. And at the same time, because she used to have like a manufacturer for private school uniforms, so which was all like tailoring, so suiting as well, because suiting is very much the core of your t-shirt, so suiting is the core of everything else, so and me seeing that when I was growing up, I remember one time I ended up with having like a needle in my finger, and then she would come and say, "What happened?" I'm like, "Nothing," and then she's just blood shooting out, and then she's like, because I like sew my own index finger because that's just what I was really looking at, So she's like, "Yeah, you playing?" I'm like, "Yep," and then she's looking at my fingers like, "Okay, all right, come to the house," So it's like have seen these things in the house, her builders coming to the house, building like our foundation, creating like this amazing like structures. I would always steal her favorite forks and start using the cement. Like in Africa, you get foundations on your house. You probably remember that as well. Like it's like to obviously add strength onto the building. So I'll see like a little crack, and then I'll go and try and like fix it, mix some cement. So and then I always say, like, if anything I'll be doing, it would have to be with my hands or with, in a way, a creative side of it, So and having mom sewing machines around and having the builders there, dad coming in, and him, obviously us going to church and making sure that we look sharp, So all those tied into what I really do today, And then that's what, like I always say, like I'm the result of like my parents, not like in a way that they pushed me towards anything. It was almost like everyone thought like I can be something, like but again, what I really was passionate about is this, So, and I love the idea of seeing people happy and seeing the results of someone wearing a garment for the first time. It's like you wearing this shirt, you feel like incredible. You feel like you are in like Nigeria right now, because it's like I'm home, So, and that's the feeling that I get from a lot of my clients as well. So whether it's for their wedding, their graduation, and that's what kind of fuels me every single time, So and yeah.
I love that answer. And I think you touched on something that I want to explore, which is mentality, because you basically were saying how you grew up around it. Like you had the privilege of having a mother who was already had that entrepreneurial mindset. But in the African community, that's actually not the case for the most part, because most of us have actually pursued more so like academic sort of professional sort of pathways, And I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. It's like what's going on essentially in the African community. Why is there a hesitation, or why is there a lack of like pursuit of business? Is it because people don't have them? They haven't been molded to think like an entrepreneur, or are people scared? Like what do you think it is? And this can be opened up to like everyone. Yeah.
I can answer that. I think firstly we have to go back to the days when the colonial masters came to Africa. It has to go back to that. There is this mindset that all our grandparents could do to help the white people that came to Africa. It actually it culminated into something else. When we went to school, what we were made to learn in schools, just to be able to be clerks, to be able to be this and that. So that didn't actually, we didn't actually get to be like artisans. like a traders that we have here. My dad nearly, beat me one day when I was going to play soccer. All he wanted me to be was a lawyer. So the same thing. So it comes back to the same thing. So that would be number one. Number two would be maybe the same thing comes back to colonialism, where we were just made to be disjointed people. We were not made to come together, so that didn't help us. Look at the Italian. Look at our Jews.
Exactly.
So we don't have it. What we have would be if Lydia, if you say something here, it's going to be antagonistic. That's what I see, and it has affected every aspect of our lives. So that's one thing that comes to head. I don't know if anyone has anything.
No, that's actually a good point. You know how you mentioned about Italians and stuff. That's one thing I've always keep in mind. Like, as Africans, we lack that sort of
that
what's the word I'm
unity.
looking- The unity
Yeah.
is not there, and for any community to succeed, and I think ownership is one aspect that's very important. Have a place where people, for example, let's say, every time I go to Woolies, for example, it's a bit of out of context.
Yeah, no.
I've never seen an Indian person in a Woolies.
You've never seen an
Indian person in Woolies.
In Woolies.
Yeah, and
Shopping.
the reason
yeah,
is
okay.
shopping
Because they're
center.
shopping from their grocery stores.
The reason is
yeah.
they shop from their own people.
Yeah.
Same thing with Chinese. Same thing with all other people. But
Yeah.
it's just us. We're kind of like too divided.
Yeah.
And there's that lack of ownership and
Yeah.
unity, which is the reason why we can't succeed. And having that sort of mentality, we're not going to go anywhere.
Well,
So-
we have a very sort of hurt. We're a very hurt, what can I say, continent as a result of what's happened,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
And so the lack of unity, we understand that it's there
Yeah.
for reasons, but then it's like, how do we ensure that this mentality isn't strongly passed
Passed
through
on to the
our
next generation, yeah.
Because that's what I'm seeing. There's even a lot of toxic mentalities or unhelpful mentalities that Ethiopians and Eritreans have as a result of the stuff that has happened within our countries, and it's understandable why there's these conflicts and these tensions, and it's reasonable from that perspective of people being hurt. But then it doesn't help us actually
doesn't.
thrive as individuals within this Australian landscape. You
Yeah.
know, we are Africans in this country, and we need to find some sort of unity within our Africanism.
Correct.
Yeah, despite the complexity of the fact that we are,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to add to that, I think another important thing is, like I said earlier, the mentality. I remember when I was in school, I didn't come across this word collaboration. When you want to be successful in a place, right? There must be. I was thinking about that in my head. Did I ever use the word? I was in Japan when I was playing professional soccer, and I saw maybe a year or two students. They're going to present a project. I was surprised the way it was presented.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to present to you this and that and that. I've got here the name. And I thought, I did not do this in Africa. So that thing wasn't there. So you look at the constitutive factor, and I'm happy with this project. This project will kind of bring us back to what we have missed as
Yeah.
Africans growing up.
Yeah.
It has been embedded on us. And I'm happy whoever put this together, massive shout, and I doff my hat for you guys. Honestly, this is good.
This is good. This
Definitely,
is good. And if
definitely.
we're asking the hard questions, like does anyone else do you have something to contribute in terms of, you were obviously around that entrepreneurial mindset, but as an African, I'm sure you would have observed that your African peers didn't necessarily have this mindset as naturally as you did, right? So
It
what-
could be a
what
lack
did
of
you-
confidence or just the fear of taking the first step
Or not knowing.
or not knowing.
Yeah. I mean, all those points are very much, of importance, because they do touch upon like what actually does happen. But apart from because with our parents, they come from like a survival instinct, regardless, So it's like, for me, that's obvious. I mean, like mom had the same thing as well, So it's like my sisters, my whole family, like they all have different sort of ways. So we're very, very lucky to be able to travel and do certain things that I know most of my friends, I'll show up at school and they'll be like, "Why's your shoes clean?" It's like, well, and so I will still sort of see those things from a different point of view. And I think the only way I can say that could change is because I only did that because I had someone that was doing that, my dad grew up in a, he was the only son, so he went to like a private school, and his parents, they used to send him to school, and he'll spend time with the priest, and they would make sure that he's very clean. So he would literally go to school with an extra pair of, like with his uniform in his bag, and he'll get there like on a rainy day, and they'll ask him, why is your stuff not wet like every other student? This is primary school, And he said, oh, it's because I just changed it at school, And they're like, oh wow, because everyone came like in the mud, it was raining, like it's like I saw that already. So therefore, again, it touches upon what we're missing. Like we missed like what you said before study. Like it's like if someone like if we don't know, if we've never seen like an artist of African background succeeding on the GQ magazine like in Australia. Like, if we didn't see Ben Simmons like on GQ magazine, or we didn't see like, Joseph Dang, he's an amazing sprinter. He was in Beijing, for Olympics. He's been going around like crazy, over his friend Paul as well. But it's like, if we don't see them like on GQ magazine, we're not going to be like, oh man, but he's Sudanese. I'm Sudanese. I can do that. But he's my age, So, and like, and in the UK, they've already been through this thing. They've already been through the hard conversation, And yeah, correct, And then like in the States as well, the same thing. So they have people that have said, oh, I've seen Michael Jackson. I want to be like him, So, and if we can really, really push ourselves being on the map, because like, when I see Lydia like, doing something with like I always say Foot Lockers because she's already doing something with them, or Converse, or like All Star, like anything like that. I'm like, damn. So so my little sister growing up, she gonna see you, like, so she'll be like, damn, like, okay, maybe I perhaps also want to project in that direction, So it's having leaders that are not afraid to like show themselves, I think like I'm always probably a little bit slower than what I probably would have been, because my peers of older that came here on an earlier generation maybe didn't have the confidence to be able to be up front. They were sort of afraid of like, oh man, someone's going to mock me. Someone's going to maybe look down on me. Someone's not going to believe me what I'm saying. So, and us as believers, like in a way, we're going to be here head high, strong, and presenting like, when you're on stage, like, so when we're doing like our own thing as well, they'll be like, okay, all right, so it can be done. So therefore, you know what? I know my mom didn't do that. I know my uncle didn't do that, but he's doing it.
Just, bouncing off Kambale's point, which speaks to the idea of representation, he felt confident and comfortable to go for something because he had a bit of guidance. But in saying that, you also had to be very much a trailblazer in your own right in Australia, right? And so I think it's just, I want to emphasize that anyone that's an African Australian that has the courage to do their own thing, really play that up in terms of actually showcasing your work and making it known to the community that you are doing this thing. Because it's true that when people see you, they feel more confident to be you. I'm not trying to buzz, but I wasn't trying to do that.
Just a quick one. Look, I think I can play a big role here. I have a few people that are from African background that are doing okay. I have a family friend. Most of you might know her, Elsie McGregor. She plays basketball. She's representing Australia. She plays in America. I have a soccer player, artists that are coming up now. So I think, like you said, I'm backing you up to say, let's get them. You have what it takes. I know you now. You can do this. Let's get an assembly of these fantastic Africans. Get them together. I'm telling you, they can come together. They're going to be They will lead the change we are wanting to see. Once I see, my daughter plays basketball because of Elsie McGregor. So that's what we're saying. If I see my son, oh, uncle, I want to be like that. And I think we should get them. I'm happy to be part of that. If you want to start, if we want to start, let's reach out to these people now. And we have one of them here now. She's here.
This is the whole point of this conversation, and the actual grant brief itself asked us to respond to inequity and disadvantage within our community, and that's by actually, doing active things to bring our community up. So that would be a perfect extension of this project, Toyin. Thank you. Before Solly goes, Solly, from your perspective, it would be really good to shed light on what the advantages have been of being your own boss, your own artist, a freelance artist. You invoice,
I really
right?
wanted to say before. There was something I wanted to touch on before, just to speak on, I guess, our mindset and our lack of willingness to take risks. I think for me, just to quickly speak on that, a
Yep.
huge part comes from wanting to honor my parents and honoring sometimes just acknowledging the fact that they've come from war-torn countries and they've never known stability, they've never known a consistent job, a consistent income. Honoring them sometimes looks like a 9 to 5. And so I think to kind of speak on my position as a creative who works full-time as in a 9 to 5 capacity and then also is pursuing music, part of that really comes down to like my parents fought for me to be here. And so maybe this is where I need to be. And so I think a lot of us have that mentality of like, by taking a risk, perhaps that's dishonoring all their efforts.
That's really
So I think
interesting, 'cause that's true.
Perhaps, a big African
I think that's very
mentality.
true. You think about how African Australians tend to actually like go towards an actual pathway, like an academic or university choice, based off the pressures of their families. And unless you're someone like myself who was willing to actually temporarily disappoint my parents while I left law, law to go and strive for other things, then you just won't end up getting to that point of, I think we think we're not eventually going to get their like support, but I think our parents actually come around
Definitely.
all the time.
They come around.
They come around.
But that's a whole risk in itself.
As someone who, has started and like maintained your own businesses and stuff, did you, how come you didn't have the fears, or did you have the fears, and how did you overcome them?
No, the fear wasn't there. It's more like wanting to see change was my main drive. Like I wanted to see change within my family first, and also because if there's change in my family, there's definitely going to be change around my family and also parts of the community. So the fear, I can say I was one of the first ones in my family to kind of like even finish a degree. You know what I mean? So like what she was saying before, our parents have done a lot to bring us here to kind of like create this opportunity for ourselves. So it's a matter of us stepping into the world and with confidence and without fear to kind of like do whatever we need to do.
Yeah.
I had a question for Solly before you leave. Sorry. Last question for you.
Solly's
I was going to ask you, like, you in the music industry, obviously, and there's a lot of people following your journey, like a lot of young Africans following the music industry journey. Like, if there's one advice you can give them, what would that be? Like,
Nice.
one advice you can give to the young ones following up your footsteps.
I think the biggest thing for me, at least, and as cheesy as it may sound, I think it's really just staying true to your artistry and not conforming to the patterns of the world and things that are trending. And I think there's obviously these days a huge emphasis on your brand, and with that comes looking a certain way, acting a certain way, being in certain spaces, and sometimes I feel the pressure to go to certain events that I probably should not, or engage in certain activities that I know I shouldn't engage in. And so just understanding who you are and not conforming for the sake of having X amount of people follow your journey. Do you know what I mean? Discipline, and there are so many tracks and features that I could have done, but I'm like, I'm sorry, what you're saying doesn't align with my brand. And so being sure of who you are and being the ability to say no is big. But it's a whole journey.
That's true, because I think by being authentic, you create, or you leave room to create a niche for yourself, and then you can attract.
You attract the right
basically.
people
Yeah,
in the end.
exactly. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Be authentic.
Be authentic. Yeah, that's it.
That's
Authenticity.
it. That's Solly's words of advice. What are some other fears?
I think you mentioned that before. I think the biggest fear would be from the parents. I'm a dad. And I will always say this. When I was growing up, my dad nearly beat the hell out of me. My mom needed to just look at me that way. Oh, man. And I'll quickly share a story with you. There was this day I was sent on an errand in Africa, and I came back, met my friend, and I was playing soccer with them. When I was playing soccer, when I was sent, somebody hit the ball hit on that thing, it just went on the floor. I started crying on the spot. I am dead. So I knew, so the fear that I was brought up with, and it's still in us. Yeah. So we need to actually, how will I put it now? There must be a change in narrative about the way we were living in Africa. No matter, even if you were born here, it's still going to be there. So that big fear is what I've been thinking about and I'm happy this conversation came. So it's hard for you to disrespect your parents. And in the Western world, you're not disobeying your parents, it's just normal norm. So that's one area. It's a cultural thing, so to say. So how do we abrogate that cultural thing and fit into life in Australia? It's a big thing. So you want to acculturate, you want to wear your jeans, wear your skimpy dress. What are you doing? Are you turning to a prostitute? It's part of the conversation. So it's a big thing.
Well, see, but that's so interesting
Good point.
because
That's a good point.
you've raised the fear, and earlier I touched on one way to address it, which is be willing to disappoint your parents. But that's not the only way, right? Are we encouraging us to have conversations with our parents? Are African parents even ready for this conversation?
Yeah. One thing, no. I was gonna ask something in regard to fear, like, because when it comes to fear, there's different kind of fear. Like, I think for most of us, are we? Is it the fear of failure, or is it the fear of responsibilities? That's the question I want to ask. Like, that's in our community. Are we scared that we're gonna fail, or are we scared to have responsibilities on us?
That's interesting because obviously being a business owner isn't
Yeah.
They're sort of related, kind of. Like I said, the fear of mom, dad, and the fear of failing. I I had a friend that came to me. He moved to Switzerland, and he said to him, I had that fear in me. I didn't want to give it a go. He bought a truck. He was going to do it. He was too scared. When he got to New Zealand, Switzerland, dad, mom were not there. He bought a truck. Said, "I'm happy to tell you, I'm a proud owner of 5 trucks." So he was scared of mom and dad. He was scared of failing, knowing that, oh, if I don't go to my 9 to 5 job, I'm going to fail. But you have to give it a go. There is no, you have to take a risk if you want to do anything in life. So they are,
most
they're
definitely.
related. They're related.
And also, I have this feeling as well that we don't know. We have an awkward relationship with money in the African community, and because of that, because we actually don't know how to use money to our benefit, or we don't understand money, I think we shy away from business because business often requires capital, and you have to manipulate money in order to, thrive in business. I have someone that's not a part of the panel that looks really keen to contribute, and you're African, so you can come. Yeah. Come. No, come on. Oh, do you want to do it off camera?
My name is Rizo, by the way, guys, and I just have one thing to actually say because because I heard something coming from a refugee. She came from Asia, I think, but she said something so important that actually like resonated with me. It was saying that there's a lot of people who come from places with no like responsibility, like no bills, no rent. As for example, like us, like I came from a refugee camp, like we had no rent, we had no bills, like it was free water, like free food every end of the month, we go comfortable like with that life. Like a lot of people go comfortable like with that life, and then they come and move into this life. They find everything else is different. They have to pay rent, they have to pay bills. And then now is when you tell them they have to take responsibility and start a business. It open up different problems in their head. Is how do I start a business? I need a business name, an Airbnb. I have to employ people. I have to be responsible for anybody who messes up in the business. Like everything, like everything I contribute. So my question is is it the comfortability that we're scared of, or the responsibilities that comes with it? Because a lot of us are just comfortable with being taken care of, like with Centrelink too. Like here, like people have Centrelink. They'd rather just get Centrelink and
Call it a day. No. That was really interesting. Yeah, really, really good point.
Man, that was very, very good, Ash.
Yeah.
I mean, you're very much right because I think there's 2 things to it. There's the idea of it and being in it, So that's what I always say. It's like when you have the confidence to, think about it and create this idea and vision in your head, you also need, the courage to be able to bring it to life, So, and I should say it out loud. A lot of people, they think about, oh, I'm actually good at this, but they never actually say it out loud, So that's why sometimes people always say, look in the mirror and actually say something out loud about yourself, that I'm confident, I am superwoman, I am, so Superman, because I feel that way, So, and coming from, some people grew up and were born and bred in a refugee camp, So they've never seen a paycheck before because there's a system that it's in place, and if you follow it for 17 years of your life, that's the system that you are with until you get out of this space. And some people they're there some for 2 decades, you know. So and they have no idea on I need to get a job. They know that I need to go to school, you know. So this aspect that they kind of understand and they in a way can connect to, which is kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, like in terms of like what can we do and also like how can we do it, you know. So it's like, you know, having leaders and having people of power that can like in a way open those doors and show encouragement, and it's not disappointing your parents. You're working towards something, you know. So and it's not necessarily disappointing parents, because I'm sure your parents would be disappointed if you married a girl that's not of the same religion or culture or the same even background, you know. So it's all a line of disappointment, but at the same time, is having kids and getting married and having a good life gonna bring them back into your family? Meaning, are they gonna be your parents again? Are you gonna have that feeling with them? Who knows, you know? So it's like, it's not necessarily disappointment. I always say, like, you know, just take that leap of faith, because that's just how it is. When you do start a business, when you do open up to anything, you know, it's all aspects of life, to be honest, you know. So I can't just say and dedicate it to only business, but I believe it's part of growth. You know, so and if you are still in the mentality of saying, I'm scared of paying staff, you know, I'm scared of, you know, creating a campaign, you know, I'm scared of being able to put an idea forward and it being rejected, then you're not doing the right thing. Because, you know, even like if we really, really go back a little bit, let's say into the Bible, like it's like, you know, God gave men work first, you know. Before a beautiful lady, you know, we got work first, you know. So therefore, she's part of our journey as well. And then we're here to also encourage her to move forward, you know. So encouragement is what I think we sometimes lack in the African community from our parents, you know, because their mindset, like we touched on earlier, it is about survival skills, you know. So, and when the Asians come here of all backgrounds, you know, whether they're from Indonesia, Singaporean, of Malaysian, you know, so, or of Indian background, and also Africans, like, we're not afraid to do the dirty work because we're surviving. We're not looking at it as like, oh, man, I'm going to be cleaner for the rest of my life, you know? But it's like, yeah, she has a teaching degree. She's a doctor from back home, but she's cleaning because she wants her kid to go to school, you know? So she's not a nurse because she doesn't know the language, but she's cleaning in a hospital, you know. So you see all the South Americans doing like, you know, all the Greek side of the, you know, like the continent. When they come here, we don't have the idea of, oh yeah, no, it's my right, you know. You can't swear at me because I'm 16 and I can report you to the government, you know. It's like, you know, and what you're sharing as well earlier, like it's like sometimes when we feel like we have to continuously not be disrespectful to our parents, it's of how the world has always been. You know, it's just that we're like in this country of liberty where a lot of people that feel like, you know, it's my right. There's a big difference between it's my right and what's right to do, you know? Like, you know, you can have the right to do anything.
And
you
it's
know?
also, like you said, mindset. So if you frame because even in my head, I had so much confidence that eventually I would impress my parents.
Correct.
Or eventually they'd believe in what I'm doing. So in a way, I could phrase it like I'm temporarily disappointing them, or I could phrase it like I'm yet to really make them proud. You know what I mean? In a
100%.
sense. And it's just like, to your question or your thoughts, I think that what I'm starting to understand is that depending on the African Australian that we're talking about, there's going to be different hesitations, there's going to be different fears.
Yeah.
And it's important for us, or people like us, to understand and be able to identify within that person what their fear or their hesitation is, and address that, like tailor our approach as, you know, elders or more experienced Africans to that person. Do you know what I mean? Because just in the same way that some African Australians are still they're still like dealing with, you know, black is beautiful. Some people are still reconciling that. And then some people are past that conversation and they're like, I know I'm beautiful. I just want to thrive and I want the opportunities.
Correct.
Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, what I'm starting to realize is that just depending on how you ended up here in Australia as an African, you have different hesitations and fears, and you need different support, essentially.
No, 100%, you know, so.
Add something. I wanted to talk about two things. The first one, I think about, I did my master's program here, international development, and I think I remember the first day in class, the question was, what is development? Everybody said, nah, bad road, good road, unemployment rate. And the lecturer said, no, that would be a product of development. And he said one thing, I don't know if anyone has read that book. He said, development is freedom. That is a book written by Amartya Sen. So when I went for that book, I bought the book, and I started to imagine in my head, Africa is not going to develop. I was about 24. I was still dependent on my parents in Nigeria. When you look at most of my friends here, when they have their kids, so I have to bring this up, it's very, very important. I remember one time, how's your son, or the little one? Yeah, I checked him last night. I said, is he sleeping in another, no, is he living somewhere else? He said, no, he sleeps in his room. And I'll talk about myself. All my kids, they just live with me in the room. They're little. And I started to think about, so if development is freedom, that means the Western world is about independent living. Yeah. So that thing is a big problem, why we're not thriving here in businesses. So there must be a kind of, that could be a way towards it. Maybe if we're talking about solutions, that could be something like, I'm not going to propose solution, I'm going to suggest something. Yeah. I will go back to a time when my son, I asked him to bring something for me. You're going to laugh at me. The phone was next to me, not too far. And I called him, can you fetch me the phone? He came back. It's Aussie boy. Said, Dad, the phone is next to you. I said, no. He said, he said, Dad, can't you see? That for me meant, are you blind? In my head, I was boiling, and I said, I held my cool, and I was like, then, and he said that. When he said, can't you see? But he was studying. To call the solution, I realized the phone was actually next to me, and my friend came in. I was lucky. It's a white person, a mainstream. He said, Twin, I heard you and your son. So you have to actually liaise with him. That was watching me. I'm a better Australian now. I can say proud. I used to be a typical African dad, and I felt, would I go and just grab him? But the poor boy was writing his exams. I called him from his room. The phone was next to me. My dad used to do that for me. So that is one thing we need to actually start to work with our parents on this. It's going to be something we have to negotiate. You can't force it. It has to be a kind of orientation. They have to relearn. So if we do that, I'm telling you, we'll get it right.
No,
so
that's
it's
so
a good
interesting.
point.
We need to bridge the gap between ourselves and our parents. But so you're coming from a father's perspective, and you're saying that you used to be a father, an African father with a strong African mentality.
No.
So what helped you bridge the gap between you? You said that there was someone there on that
someone
occasion.
came on the day. Another thing would be where I work that you know.
Yeah.
I work with young people, if you guys don't know, and I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
My master's degree it has to do with more international and community development, but working with the young people has actually shown, I've seen a lot of things now. I used to I have twins, I have girls. Mm-hmm. I will manage them when they were like 1, 2, 3, 4. As soon as they get to that teenage year, I just liaise with them. This could be even important for parents that will be hearing, that will be opportunity to, hear this. I think we have to manage them when they die young, but we have to liaise with them, which my dad didn't do with me when I was growing up.
But that's what I'm hearing then, is that it took you being in real life situations with young people in order for you to take those shifts of mentality, right? And as African Australian people, I know for myself, I fear putting myself in that situation. I fear putting my parents in a situation where they're going to have to be confronted by something that they might not be fully comfortable with. But interestingly, it's happened about 2 times where, out of my control, my parents have come across something that I wouldn't have comfortably approached them about as an African Australian. And their response shocked me because they were willing to listen, they were willing to understand, they were willing to, meet in the middle, they were willing to actually offer gentle advice. Awesome. And so I think we need to also be a little bit courageous about putting our parents in that situation, because unlike Toyin, not all of our parents actually are exposed to the youth centre where he can work with, or where they can work with young people. So we need to also step up and be willing to sit with our parents and bridge the gap a little bit.
And it actually takes me to this topic. I'm so crazy about this topic. Maybe someone like you could come up and start to put this concept out there. We did one at Fitzroy. I think it's about intergenerational conflict. That one was massive. It was 5 minutes. I played the Nigerian dad. I've seen many Nollywood movies. I was like, and this girl was my daughter. I was going to go out in the short skate. Daddy, I'm going to catch up with my friends. It was about 10 p.m. I said, why are you going out now? The argument, like, you can. I was yelling. But all of a sudden, someone came in, and the way we negotiated, and okay, you can go, but can you come back that time? That is the way to go. If anybody is going to be having access to this thing we're doing, that is the way forward. Maybe it's part of what we're talking about here. It will affect a young person that is wanting to be a tailor, or maybe a soccer player, or maybe artisan. So it's something that there has to be that shift. There has to be change of narrative, and the parents must be involved in a way. So you can do this, Lilia. You can.
No, that's huge.
It is. Roms, do you have any thoughts? I think we should, come wrap it up and summarize our conversation. Yeah.
I was just struck by his Riser's point about the comfortable zone. Like we as Africans, I think we are too comfortable in our our own area, and he touched on Centrelink, for example, like
Comfortable in our discomfort.
we are too comfortable in our discomfort. That's the word I was looking for. I think it's gonna take some time for us to get where we want to be, but also it obviously start with us. This is the starting point here, because we've realized that the gap is there. But the question is, what are we doing about it? And I was going to ask Kambele, because you're already you're in the highlight already, yeah. You're like you're there, and the question I was asking you is, like, are you willing? How willing are you to kind of like mentor other young Africans that want to get into the fashion industry, for example? Because I know that there's a few of them that I know a few that want to get into the industry like you are in. Like, what are some of the things that you can do to kind of like mentor them, or to kind of like encourage them, to kind of like lead them, to do something like yourself?
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I can say is that, I mean, there's moments where I'm smiling when everyone's talking. Like, it's because, like, I'm having almost, like, reminiscent of some thoughts that I've shared with myself, So at home are projects that I would like to do as well, like, So, but again, I think I was telling Lydia before, it's like, I know my strength, so I'm trying to create a team or a network of people where I can reach out and present like an idea or present something, and then they can also further that into maybe funding, etc. So there's definitely things that can potentially happen in the future of not just intuition side of things, but also in actual support, So, and I think that's why we feel like we disappoint parents, or that we're not doing something because we're lacking that little bit of a push. So you're having a conversation with your daughter about, hey, look, that miniskirt is a bit short. And you're saying, you know what? Well, you come back at 8 o'clock. She's probably thinking like, man, 8 o'clock, man, I wear long pants. I'll come back at 3 a.m., So it's like there's a point of negotiation, so there. And I think that's when you feel like you're connecting with them as well, And like you said before, it's like your parents open up with a conversation where you didn't think they would respond in that manner. You're like, wait a second. You actually do care? You do listen? Like, is that what you've been doing this whole time? So it's like, and having those things, like, it's almost like, okay. There's like an understanding, but it's not any different compared to what you had last month or last time. It's just because you guys came to some sort of understanding, So what I can also provide is the understanding that I have, because I'm huge on, you tell me that my shoes are not tied or my pants is unzipped, I'll be happy because you're telling me that something I don't know, I didn't see, So I don't look at it as like you're telling me what to do or you are enforcing this idea on me. So I like to be able to give people opportunities, sit there and say, look, there's an area where we can develop and grow, which is in Caucasian terminology, constructive criticism, So it works. Like, it's not a bad thing, So I don't know, people think they're kings and queens, and like someone just telling them, look, I know you're hungry, just eat your food. It's like, I'm not eating today, man. I'm just gonna sit here. Like, no, like I said, you don't necessarily have to have that. Like, it's okay to be coachable, So, and coaching, I think, is something that I can do in a few different areas, and there is a lot of projects that we can work on together in the future. Just a matter of having a conversation, because, like you said, there is a lot of young people in this industry that are willing to go ahead in many different areas, So.
John doesn't know who to help unless those people have, the courage to come and ask John.
Which is why I felt like I need to ask him that question, because the platform that I'm kind of like trying to build here, like ownership, it's not just, like I said, it's for us Africans, to be more, if I can be honest, for us Africans. And for me, I'm trying to create a place where I can have a music studio where they can come in and create their own music, a photography studio where they can come and do practice their own photography, mentorship, for example. So people like you, I can invite you to come through and give some sort of workshop and stuff like that. That's the platform I'm trying to create. So the reason why I ask you that question is because honestly, if you're willing to kind of like jump on board in the future to kind of like, give mentorship and, things like that.
And, with the process of bridging the gap between our parents and ourselves, we also need to be mindful that it's going to take a lot of grace and gentleness and compassion and
time.
understanding and all of those things. Well, honestly, sorry, Rizo, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, it's one last thing I was gonna say is about bridging
The gap.
the gap between us and our parents, right? I just have a question that I think it hasn't been answered or asked a lot in our community is like what our parents are do or like what we go through with our parents. Is it like is like a tradition or is it trauma for them? It's because like a lot of, a lot of them grew up like in that household like where they have to be on point like there's no space for you to mess up. Like your daddy is on you like every time, you know. So that they grew up and they thought they had to be like them. So I'll go back like at your point, like when you called as your son to pass your phone that was right there. You know, like I went through that a lot. Like as my mom, like she'd call me from outside to come and pass her like a remote control that's right next to her. You know, so like it's I found myself doing that too. You know, as with my nephews and nieces, I'm like, he's coming past me this, and then I'm like, hold up, wait, I'm just repeating the same fucking, the same things they did. You know, like I'm not trying to break the chain here. Like I took it on like that's parenting. You know, that's how it should be. You know, so my question, like, is it a generational thing or is it just a trauma that everybody is stuck in that we don't know how to literally differentiate from one another? You know?
Yeah. Who wants to go first? That's a very tough question. If there's one thing I can say quickly in regards to that question is how I've seen it, like it's my own personal experience, is like I grew up with very strict parents. My mom is very strict. It's very Christian lady and very strict, so to say. But growing up, like with her being there and just kind of like you say, like telling us to do all the time. In being in that moment, it seemed a little bit harsh. It seemed very harsh because we were kids. We want to go play outside. Like, oh, you can't go outside. You have to be inside. But to be where I am right now, looking back, and I'm like, if she didn't do what she did there, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. So all those discipline and strictness, they actually benefited me. That's for me. I think it's a positive thing. So it's just a matter of kind of like having that sort of mindset of understanding, like why they did that. It's all out of love. That's all I can say.
But some children were subjected to harsher conditions, right?
Yeah.
Which didn't necessarily feel like love to some. But I think it's instead of just encouraging people to get to a point of appreciating their parents, reconcile what you went through with your parents in a sense, because sometimes it's enough to understand that we're so different that it's okay, mom and dad, that you weren't able to show me or discipline me in a way that I would have preferred, in a sense. Like what I'm trying to say is that not every African will authentically come to a point of genuinely embracing how their parents raised them, But reality is we understand that our parents were a part of a completely different culture and they did their best. I think we should be able to agree that for the most part they did their best.
Definitely.
Yeah, so just reconciling that.
And acknowledging that as well.
Exactly, and acknowledging that can be really helpful for moving forward in a productive way.
Yes, Fola?
I feel like you have
so
something
you,
to say.
you came right on point.
Honestly, I was so blessed not to be raised in a household like that because my mom was a hustler. I was raised with like really strong, powerful women that they were just go-getters. And that's probably where I got my belief from. My mom never believed in violence. She never believed in all that. So that was pretty good for me. In saying that, being raised in Africa and being raised in Australia is culture shock, right? Because there is normal. That's a normal thing. as you know what you say, is because we have moved to Australia, we've learned Australian culture, and we think, oh, that's not normal. So I just think that's the difference, right? And in like your exactly. So it's up to us to choose what's best for us and our kids. We can also. I'm not saying that we should just sit there and say, "Get me the remote control," because I'm your mum. I'm saying, let's raise them up to be respectful men and women, but to also get the remote control for themselves. They're not saying get the remote control because they want to be mean. How I was raised, they're saying get the remote control because I'm your boss. It's just showing that power. And that's how their parents raised them, to show that power. So you do not disrespect me on the street. You do not call me by my name. You can, tell your friends and family as a joke. Do you know what I mean? That's how I see it. And from that mentality, you got to choose, do I want to raise my kids that way, or do I want to bring both cultures together and say, hey, give me the remote control, please. It's just that little switch that shows that, yes, I'm your mom, you can respect me, but there's also a way of asking for things. If that makes sense, everybody.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
It's just finding that, that common ground, and you can find the balance in between those two cultures.
They call us third culture kids. I think there's a saying called third culture kids, where like you have the graph of your motherland culture, the Australian culture, and we're in the middle. So we're probably better off embracing our Africanism and our Australianism.
It's about relearning. It's about reorientation. Both sides.
Yes. Before we wrap up, I'd just like to invite, for just one question, I'd like to invite the man behind the camera. His name is Senpai. He's a business owner.
Senpai in the building!
He is a business owner himself.
Senpai in the building!
It would not be right to not get a contribution from the business owner of the show. Tell us about yourself. And I know that he's very strong on mindset, and even for your age and what you've achieved, I think it would be really, really like valuable to hear your perspective around why you thought you would start your own business, and how it's been empowering to be a business owner despite the challenges, and what you see for yourself, and why you're why you're going for it, basically.
All right, so I'm gonna try to do this quickly, I guess. I'm gonna try sum up all your questions in one.
That's
by
what's
one.
up.
My name is Matthias Samson. I am born and raised in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, and I grew up in Canada for a couple of years, and I came to Australia in 2013. And I run a streetwear brand, and a creative platform called Senpai Apparel, and I'm also a freelance photographer. And yeah, so what's the first question?
Well, why business?
Why Senpai?
You got into business at a very young age, right? Why? How come you had the courage? Why did you see the value in it?
I guess my experiences has been in a way where one thing that you guys were touching on is like disappointing your parents. So we were born and raised in a way where you need to have education, a job, and everything like that. And I guess one thing parents do struggle with is integrating with the first world country society. Yeah. They come from a third world country with their own struggles. So I guess living in Africa and things like that, they're only stressed about survival. So if you look at the pyramid scheme in a way, they only care about food, shelter, safety, and everything before they start going up the pyramid. So when they do come here, that's the only mindset they have been fixed to since a young age.
Your mom had that mindset too?
Yes, my mom had that mindset too. For me, it was in a case of, I guess, being surrounded by just everyone, just watching other people do what they want to do and being happy while they're doing it, and then you're being forced to just do something that makes someone else happy, but then at a cost of your own happiness and your own fulfillment. But I guess for me was by a young age, I was independent because of family issues. So once I disattached myself from family, I was obviously trying to live the way that I have been raised, which is just working and everything. But my biggest issue was, in a way, you do your 9 to 5 in a way, and you realize how much time is flying by, and you don't even enjoy what you're doing, So yeah, there's money being made, but at the same time, you don't feel like you're living. Yeah. So the time that I really did want to start Senpai Apparel, my creative platform, was in a way, I was working for a couple of different companies in my past, have had really good roles and really good income, but in a way, I was never fulfilled. So I just asked my question of like, what do I really want to do, and what's something that will make me happy. I like learning new stuff. I like doing it, but then at the same time, when it becomes repetitive, I hate it. It feels almost robotic. So the only thing that you're doing is how quick can I do it at this point in time. There's nothing else. And some people are fulfilled, like they're fulfilled with it because in a way, they only care about structure and repetitive work. So as long as they're doing the same thing again and again and again, it doesn't bother them because that's where they feel safe. So they find security in that. But for me, I just kind of ask the question of like, how can I better use my mind instead of the physical aspect of working for someone else? At the end of the day, you do need to do that unless you come from some rich family and you have bucket loads of money. But regardless, you need to do your 9 to 5 to fund your personal aspirations. So I just kind of like the world that we live in. There's social media, YouTube, internet safari. So there's a lot of information out there. So it's not like the time where your parents were born, where if you wanted to know something, you had to go get education from it. You could literally teach yourself any skill that you want. Yeah, so so I just wanted to know how I can be very flexible and versatile. So I wanted to learn on how to design. I used to take photos when I was in high school, but my mom never really seen that as a very legit thing to do, or something that is profitable, or something that can make someone fulfilled. So I kind of just got all these ideas together, spent like about 4 months on YouTube just learning on how to screen print, how to design, and how to do all of that. And then I guess it just came upon me to just say, hey man, I've already watched tons of these videos and I've informed myself, and I feel like I know what they're doing it, and I know the process. So you just got to do it, you know? So I just bought the equipment and everything, and I started doing it myself. And it wasn't more so of like making money or anything, but just in being like fulfilled in something that you've taught yourself to do, and you're doing it yourself. And then that thing might turn profitable. But the issue is like a lot of people focus on instant gratification than delayed gratification, because if they don't see the results now, if they don't see the money coming in now, or the fame or whatever, they don't want to do it, you know? So what's your mentality around 1% every day? Because I really admire that. So it's like a lot of people try to change a huge portion of themselves in one go. The issue with that is that you can't maintain it, you know? So a lot of people will be like, I'm going to quit smoking today, and I'm going to quit drinking and everything, but then you'll see them fall apart in 2 months, 3 months. It doesn't matter, just in a short amount of time. But my belief is that if you do better yourself 1% a day, instead of trying to do 20% this week, 5%, you would have a gradual increase in yourself and in your mindset and in your resilience. So by doing something 1% a day, by the end of the year, without you knowing it, you've actually accumulated a huge amount of skills, progress, and everything else. So by using my platform, I do want to encourage the youth in our community that we're surrounded by to be creative, to do your 9 to 5 if you have to do your 9 to 5, but then at the same time investing into yourself and back into your community at the same time. So I'm hosting like screen printing workshops, collaborating with
Nice.
I'm collaborating with other brands, designers, music people, you know. So I got one coming up on the 18th of June. It's going to be a screen printing workshop, but at the same time, all these people that are experienced in their fields, like Garden of Beats, Immortal Fate, Weibo, we're going to come together and host a workshop to show people how we do it and how they can get into it, which is one thing that I've had an issue with, is like a lot of people, like you guys were talking about, we're living in a very survivalistic type of world where people don't want to share information, or they're fighting against each other as Africans, you know? So another point that you guys raised was like, if you look at Asians, specifically Asians too, is that when they do go to shop, they go to Asian supermarkets. When they go to doctors, they go have their own. So they're consistently investing into their community and into themselves. So one thing that we are lacking as Africans is that we're not investing that much into ourselves and into our community. So I guess, like you guys were saying, running and hosting workshops in a way where we can include other Africans and also it doesn't have to be specifically Africans, but it just has to be people that are willing to step out of their boundary and actually want to try new things, you know what I mean? And by doing that, by changing yourself by that 1% a day, you might help someone else change also in the process, but focus on yourself, like mainly, of changing yourself and growing, and in the process you'll find yourself helping and changing others.
1% a day. 1% a day. I like that. I like that. I like that.
Toyin's investing.
Any advice you can give to anybody, like, any of us, people trying to get into the food industry, in the hospitality, they want to have their own food truck, for example, they want to have their own restaurant. What sort of advice can you give them, like, based on your own experience?
It's hard. Do it hard. Honestly, my advice is follow your heart. Always listen to your gut and always trust yourself. And the biggest one is take a risk on yourself.
Sure.
Yeah, and you honestly go. If I was listening to other people, we would not be here right now. I just listened to my gut, and I did not take no for an answer. Anyone that said no to me, I said thank you. On to the next one.
Nice. Go ahead. Go ahead.
One tip I could say is remember you are the main character in your life. Stop living like a side character. Believe in yourself. And all that
That's
shit.
I'm a testament here. I'm going to make an attestation. I'm going to sort of put a testimony. When I was playing soccer, it got to a stage, honestly, I'm from, I don't want to call it rich family. The question was...
It's rich family. You can say it.
No. The question was, I thought I was going to end up helping my dad with his oil business. And people were asking me, Tony, when are you going to... No, I didn't want to. I wanted to play soccer. Soccer took me out of Nigeria. I've made presidents. I've done everything in my life. I work with Yara. Yeah, don't stop my job, please. I don't need the money. I need the money. So, honestly speaking, sincerely speaking, I love that. Yeah. When it comes from the heart, go for it. Yes. It's true. It's something we need to embed on every young person, not just for African. Listen, if you want to do something, go for it. There must be a reason why you are wanting to do that thing, and I really appreciate you stressing on that. I never stopped.
Yes.
Even my girlfriend then, she was gonna leave me. If you get to hear, if she gets to hear this, I'll say it publicly. I've said it many times. And she told me, won't you work? I said, forget my dad's money. I want to.
Hey, somebody pass Eddie a tissue, man.
Yeah. But a player, if you guys know football, African football, Sunday Olise. If you know Nigerian soccer player, Sunday Olise was like a teammate, or we played. And I wanted to be like him. And I saw the passion in him, and I saw the zeal to survive. Let's talk to young Africans about this. Let them do this. Don't lose hope. And I'm happy to tell the younger one, if it comes from here, go for it.
Yes.
Definitely.
Whoa, I think that brings
That's
us to
a
the end.
wrap.
That's a wrap.
We're
Wow.
together for a reason, right?
Yeah,
We
definitely.
are.
All honestly listen to ourselves. We stay true to who we are, and that's why you guys, we all got
That's
together.
it. Yeah.
So stay blessed, guys.
Stay
Definitely.
blessed. The key word is ownership.
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 Spend so many nights to get it down.